Art and culture in the Age of Enlightenment, 18th century to the early 19th century, the Enlightenment, Neoclassicism and Romanticism.
The Age of Enlightenment is a European intellectual movement that took place in the 18th and 19th centuries, which is also known as the Age of the Reason or Enlightenment. This era is now for critical work and thinking that reformed society and revolutionized politics, art, philosophy, science, and communications. The knowledge and the use that was carried out was the reason that they were strong teams during the 18th century, that the time will come when these idealisms will completely overthrow the supernatural and what was customary or traditional, because what was not rational or logical was to be regarded as vain and meaningless. For the Enlightenment, there was no principle by which to abide unless it seemed acceptable to him, and even if it were possibly the server will establish an innovated law based on said learning to contribute thus to what was the Age of Enlightenment.
Major drivers of the Age of Enlightenment. Angelica Kaufmann, the painter of the Allegre's compositions. This painter, trained in the arts from a young age, was a pragmatic artist endowed with a great ability for composition and discipline that earned her a name in the 18th century in England. Her works were recognized as Allegre's. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was a philosopher, sociologist, and theorist of aesthetics. He toured several countries in Europe, where he acquired multiple knowledge and wrote various topics in different styles. The novel, His Confessions, and the socio-political treatise. His main works are Discourse of Science and Arts, Emilio and the Social Contract. Voltaire, French writer, philosopher, and historian, he was educated in a Jesuit college. His main works, The Century of Louis XIX, On the Costumes and the Spirit of Nations, treatise on tolerance.
The main artistic movements and their time periods of the Enlightenment era were Romanticism in 1770, Realism in 1850, Impressionism in 1874, Neo-Impressionism in 1887, and Post-Impressionism in 1910.
This era was filled with many artists and intellectuals who created many masterpieces that shaped what we call today the Enlightenment, like Johann Sebastian Bach, 1685 to 1750, who was a German composer most known for his famous composition Mass in B minor and the Well-Tempered Clavier. He is considered one of the best Western composers of all time. Poet and novelist Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, 1749 to 1832, who wrote some parts of the Aufklärung, also known as the German Enlightenment. He also influenced deeply the Romanticism movement and wrote one of the best four novels ever written, Wilhelm Meister. Child prodigy and composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1756 to 1792, who composed some of the most heard symphonies in history, composing approximately 600 pieces throughout his career. Painter Joseph Wright, 1734 to 1797, also known as Joseph Wright of Derby, known as one of the first professional painters to portray the true spirit of the Industrial Revolution, painting from landscapes to science scenes. Painter Eugène Delacroix, 1798 to 1863, considered the leader of the Romanticism movement in France and the Western world. His masterpiece, Liberty Leading the People, is the most characteristic piece of this movement. Painter Jacques Louis David, 1748 to 1825, who was the official painter of French Revolution, became a hero, even referred to as a messiah, because of the anti-corruption messages he portrayed in his many artworks.
The Enlightenment was filled with many artworks that changed society's perspective and way of life. That being said, we cannot choose only 5 characteristic artworks because all of them were important and gave the 18th century people the freedom they deserved. However, we decided to speak about the following artworks made by some of the most emblematic artists of the time mentioned before. Liberty Leading the People. This painting, made by Eugène Delacroix in 1830, commemorates the July Revolution in Paris, which removed King Charles X from the power. This emblematic painting was finished in 3 months, and in 1831 it was exhibited at the 1831 Salon, an annual French art exhibition at the Louvre. The painting is made of a half-nude female with a yellow dress tied with a red rope, holding the French flag with one hand and a bajonet with the other. It is believed that she is the personification of liberty. Around her, there's people that represent the different social classes that participated in the revolution. Members of the bourgeoisie are identified by their black coat, cravat, and hat, while the workers are identified by their apron and sailor pants.
Number 3. A philosopher lecturing on the orrery made by Joseph Wright of Derby in 1766, which represents the advance in science made in the age of enlightenment. In this painting, the center of attention in this already a mechanic model of the solar system. Use it for a public lecture about the solar system using a lamp as the sun, illuminating the people portrayed in the painting. Wright of Derby portrayed the pursuit of scientific knowledge in this painting, with the help of a teenager girl, 2 young boys and men admiring the lecturer, making science the center of attention in the painting. Out of the orrery, Jacques Louis David made this painting in 1384, considered one of the best-known paintings in the neoclassical styles. The 3 men portrayed in the picture represents the oratory, the group of Romans that were selected to settle the dispute between the Romans and the Albans, swearing to defeat their enemies or die for their country through the use of 3 swords held up by their father, while a young woman named Sabina and other 3 women and children are grieving in the back, representing the consequence of the battle of dispute. Because of the vivid colors, the geometry, and the constraining character, the painting because the new styles of painting throughout Europe, later known as neoclassicism. The Magic Flute, this opera made by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, premiered in 1791. 5 months before Mozart died. The opera is about a damsel in distress who is rescued by handsome prince but it can be considered an allegory of the quest of wisdom and enlightenment through symbols of Fredo's summary and secret order of Samsons who learn skills towards becoming a better person in the journey of life, embracing and showing the inspiration of enlightenment principle in his work, such as knowledge, social hierarchy, morality, and freedom. Mathematical principle in 1687, Newton published this text that systematized science. Glorious Revolution in 1688. A glorious revolution in England. I was looking for power from the people. Voltaire in 1604, great writer and historian of illustration. Low Spirit in 1748, Montesquieu published his main book. The Encyclopedia in 1751, a publication that I collect and order the knowledge of the time. The Weight of Nations in 1776, Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations was published, considered the first book on modern economics. French Revolution in 1789. The French Revolution begins.
Romanticism founds the inspiration of ancient Greece and Ptolemy, frees the prosaic realism and outer beauty to find some inner spirituality. It manifests in a sentimental something even gloomy. The landscapes are melancholy. With dreams and exotic lands, the woman is represented not only by her beautiful body, but as a beautiful spirit. The architecture upsets previous style. In sculptures, give more moment to figure an iron spirit by nature, based on themes of medieval and contemporary. Realism. Apart from showing other realities as a way to search for the truth with what is observed, find a method that reflects the world condition, the accurate portrayal of attitudes and characters. Colors close to nature after show as it is. The artist forget fantasy and inconsequential issues for society, which will take you to become a bicycle for complaint. The art waiver of the personal and subjective to become a social order. Impressionist. Painting has no arguments, but prints cityscapes and countrysides. The word BLB represents leisure indoors and used as a nature outdoors entertainment. The scene as a reaction Argentine were they made excursions. In this place is where many young painters find topics to paint. When painting outdoors, the transformation of a place and action as well as light involves a quick stroke. This embodies the general atmosphere. More than details and trifles, sensible realities far from material becomes a sprint, in a vision that remains in the retina. No represents what is perceived, but the moment of perception. The environment that's forced to impression is light or pure color. The Impressionists eliminate the minute details a form suggests only using two primary colors, examples blue, red, yellow, and complementary are orange, green, and violet, using loose brush strokes, short and juxtaposed.
New Impressionism was the artistic movement that really came to manifest the Impressionist postulates. It could also be said that it was the return to Impressionist systematization. The technique used is called pointillism or divisionism. and it is an extreme position of Impressionism that applies theories about color more rigorously than this. Post-Impressionism was both an extension of Impressionism and a rejection of its limitations. Post-Impressionists continued to use vivid colors, a compact application of paint, and distinguishable brush strokes, as well as a real-life theme, but they tried to bring more motion and expression to their painting.